Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm going to be running through some books that I've found helpful in the past, and hopefully some of you will find helpful as well. So I'm going to get started with my first book, which is The Magic of Thinking Big. So this is a book from 1959, so running on the older side. It's got over 4 million copies sold, which as you can see on the front there. It's an American book, so some of the wording is American based, and the fact that it was published in 1959, a lot of it does refer to with anecdotes of people from World War II getting back from the war. So some of it is a little old, but I think there's still some truths in there which are still applicable today. So stepping back, the whole of the message, so the magic of thinking big, what is that? So that is the idea that to not limit our own potential by thinking small. So a lot of people work on the assumption that they are not good enough, that there are limiting factors in place to stop them from achieving what they want to achieve. And before they even try, they actually stop themselves before they even might hit that hurdle, which would perhaps stop them, perhaps not. So they're limiting themselves, they're keeping themselves in this little bubble, this safe bubble. So what the book is trying to put across is that to overcome these beliefs, we have to put aside our excuses, put aside our fear of failure, and to actually attempt what you're trying to achieve. And once you are attempting it, you have to believe that it can succeed. That's the, if I was going to summarize this book, it would be believing that you can succeed, or that success is possible in this endeavor. So there's lots of sections in this book. It goes over, I think it's 13 sections, 12, and it's each broken down into slightly different ways to handle things. So there's making sure you believe in what you're actually doing, so that it is possible to achieve what you're trying to achieve. There is making sure you can overcome the excuses that you put in place. So I think it mentions 4 excuses particularly. So they are not being the wrong age, being too young, too old, being in the wrong health, being not educated enough, and there's another one I can't remember. Those are the main ones that I found applicable to me, so those are the ones that have stuck in my mind. There's also the idea of that's pushed in this book, that you will come into contact with obstacles. Most journeys do have a detour or two, and the fact is that if you do come into an obstacle, not to let that obstacle stop you, not to be defeated by that obstacle, to keep a positive mindset, to keep a can-do mindset, I'm going to say, and don't be defeated by it. Believe that you can overcome this, and that nothing is impossible. So it pushes this idea that, it does some thought experiments with the idea that it talks about the idea of believing nothing is impossible. So you might come up, one of the examples is to completely eliminate prisons in the American justice system. And he had a focus group that he was talking to, and all these people were saying that's impossible, so he let them run for a few minutes on why this is impossible. And then he said, let's just imagine that it is possible. If it were possible, what were some steps we could take to make this happen? And once you remove the idea that it was impossible, they actually came up with some interesting steps on this and on how it could be implemented. Increasing public spending on youth programs, increasing housing, all these interesting ideas. There were some that perhaps weren't as morally, a bit of a moral grey area back then. So some doing some operations on people to stop behaviours. That's probably fallen by the wayside. But the point stands, looking for solutions by entertaining the idea that it is possible, so which I found very, very inspiring on how to move forward with things. Some of the other bits that were covered, some of these things were a little bit older fashioned now, a little bit almost expected. So dressing in a way that makes yourself feel professional and that you can believe in yourself. Modelling, a certain level of modelling. I don't know if you're familiar with this, the idea that you think of someone who is successful, and you would imagine, okay, so what would that person do in this situation? How would a successful person react to the obstacles that I've come up against? So that can help you put yourself in the mindset that it is actually possible to move past that obstacle. There's also the idea of taking action. So it goes over action a few times. So there's the idea that the antidote to fear is to take action. So this way it stops us dwelling in fear, it stops us being bogged down, and by the time we've had enough, before we can really consider the fear for too long, we've taken action, and that action has allowed us to move past the fear, which I think is quite a nice point. There's also it talks about the idea of ideas, and so this is where ideas are great, and ideas can be very helpful as a stage, but they're actually useless unless you take action to move them into, you do something with an idea. If you don't do anything with an idea, it might as well not be there, because an idea is wasted if you don't do anything with it. So that was what really stuck with me. So the idea of believing that a project can succeed and taking action. Hearing me say it back, it can seem like quite a basic thing, but I think it's fundamental to complete any project. So yes, that's what I would say about this book. I'd say it's worth a read. Some of it's outdated. It could probably be half the length, but there are some good nuggets in there. So I would recommend giving it a go if you get the time. Okay. See you next time. Bye.